Hi, I'm a designer, okay? And it means that I craft stuff, so mostly digital stuff, and also I play around with ideas for business and some other kind of like inventions, so to say. My father has a really better definition. He said that I draw the internet. I love that one. That's pretty much accurate. So I'd like to talk to you today about how I learned design and how can you learn design by hacking your own studies. So I studied design like in the most classical way. So actually I went to 4 different universities throughout my whole study life. And there they gave me kind of the building blocks for becoming a professional, right? And actually not only the building blocks, but also how I should assemble them. The point was that I was not really happy about how they gave that to me. So I simply assembled the way that I want to assemble it. So I hacked the whole thing. Before we go like explaining how can you do that, let's talk about what design expertise means exactly. So design expertise is built like among 3 different blocks. So we have one is how to build stuff. The other one is basically know what to build, because like you can be a really good engineer and so on, but not have ideas of how to apply that. Or you can have a great idea, but not knowing how to build those stuff. And the third one, that's I think one of the most important from these 3, is like how to use that knowledge, this 3 knowledge that you have to do something about that. So things that I figured out while I was studying was designers are like platypus. It's really hard to define a designer. It's really hard to put them in a box. And even if you have studied the same course, 2 designers may not have or may not perform the same skills, or may not have the same knowledge. So it's really hard to like put 2 of them together and say, hey, yeah, I expect the same thing from you too. And that's actually something that I figured out that happens also with other courses. So most of the new kind of professions people are learning right now has more influence. So the things that you know has more influence from your interests and your hobbies and your passions rather than what the university brings to you on the table, you know? So your professional identity is way more shaped by yourself rather than by the curriculum. And another thing that I realized was that I was studying for something that didn't exist yet. So my first job when I got out of university didn't exist when I started studying. You know, the position didn't exist. So I was actually being educated for a profession that doesn't exist yet. So you guys have start studying now, you might realize that, I don't know, I'm sorry to say that, but everything that you learn right now won't be applicable in 4 years. So I was really curious about, okay, since the university is working this way and it's not changing, I want to know how it's built, like how does it work? So I started trying to understand, like breaking the university and try to find out what's inside of that. So the first thing that I found out was how it was built in the first place. So university was created by that. Basically, you had a group of old people, like practitioners that have been working that field a lot for a long time, and say, we are what's supposed to be a practitioner, like how this profession should be, professional in this position. So we create the fundamentals for that. And then afterwards, we create how people can actually learn it. So we put them into a path. We create some gates where they can actually get checked if they're doing a good job or not. They get rewarded by some ECTS. And of course, by doing that, we can protect the market. We can say, OK, only who studied can actually come and play with us. And you can actually say who's not capable enough just has to be wait outside. Another thing that's interesting, like the way that we checked is with exams. And exams only exist in university environment. Like they don't exist in real life. Where have you done an exam in your life to prove something? Nowhere. Like it's pretty much like Santa Claus. Sorry for the spoiler. Yeah. So I got really, really frustrated at university because I was seeing the pattern repeating over and over again. So we created this kind of mediocrity pact, you know? Professors pretend that they are teaching, students pretend they are studying, and then, like, you know, I can go home earlier, professor can go, like, no one gets stressed out, so it's pretty cool. But that was, like, kind of consuming my time because, come on, I still have to go 6 months there or, like, 4 years or whatever, so I didn't have the patience for that. So I started doing everything else that I could do at university besides going to class. So I was part of the student council. I started opening startups. I attended other courses like theater. I attended research centers, conference events. I organize events. So I was trying to do everything, trying to use my time at university as much as possible. But again, the university was dragging me back because, okay, they are disturbing my studies. They say, okay, look, you still have to attend class, you still have to do exams, and it was really bad. But what happens then was that I start figuring out how can I cope with those problems. Like, how can I still attend university, deliver my exams, and like do whatever I want to do, learn whatever I want to learn. So one story was I had a physics class with a great guy called Antonio Arapiraca. And he asked me to do exam. He said, okay, look, to get to the grades, you have to perform this test. I said, okay, I don't like to do exams. Can I design a game instead? Can you tell me exactly what you want me to know? And then I design a game that can teach other people that? Would be a deal. And they say, yes, let's do that. So I worked my ass off to get a game done, and it was awesome. Like, I learned so much about so many different things. I learned so much about different things like game design, package design, illustration, and actually physics. So the thing that I kind of like make my day in that moment was I realized that university is a toolbox. University is like, it's a full of resource that you can use to learn whatever you want. So you have like a lot of really talented professors. You have motivated colleagues, like students all around, people that are focused on the same area that you are. You have buildings, infrastructure, you have access to equipment and everything else. So why not use that for learning whatever you want to learn, right? So here are some tips of how can you start doing that. How can you use your university as a toolbox? So the first thing is like you're going to have is you're going to encounter the system. So the system is going to provide you some things that you have to do. And then it's your turn to look at that things and check what's the opportunities there. How can I twist that? And then, of course, you have to check that with the gatekeeper. So you're going to offer that to the gatekeeper, going to make the check, like the negotiation thing. And of course, you have to work and deliver. So doing like these 4 steps, you can apply to anything and then check how does it goes. And that kind of changed the whole perception on education as well. Because usually, like, the main discussion about education is this fight between progressive and traditional education, right? Like, people say, oh, traditional education is boring because it's frontal teaching. Progressive education is cooler because it's engaging. I think this discussion is useless. I think in the end of the day, what you have is, like, what really matters is experience. You know, like, it doesn't matter where you get the input. It's a matter where you apply it and how you apply it. My perception is that education is random, okay? So there's no way that two people are going to have the same experience even if they follow in the course at the same time, okay? Because it's all based on what colleagues you bound best, like who is around you. It's based on the professors that you have access. If a professor doesn't like you, or if you don't like the professor, it might likely that you can't have this connection with him. It matters, for example, how many events you have around you that's happening at the same time that can inspire you to do something else. And also like internships or other job opportunities that you might encounter. So all of those things shape how you learn, and they cannot be promised by the university in any matter. So by hacking my studies, when I putting all the stones together, like finding out that the things are man-made, so the whole educational system is man-made. Education is actually random, and I can hack it. I learned some of the stuff. I learned how to use my design knowledge. And the first thing that I learned was empathy. So by looking at how the system works, understand how the system works, I could see the code. You know, I could see the matrix now. And because of that, I get more access to people. I can ask them what they need. I can negotiate that with my professors from now on. The second thing that I realized I had was like creative confidence. Because suddenly I realized that all the things that I had in front of me, all the course, I could do something with that, and I could propose anything. And that gave me really the confidence to try out whatever thing I had in my mind. And finally, the thing that I learned was also reframing. Because imagine that if you have a math class, and you say, okay, what can I do with that now? Like, I have no idea, how can I use that from away? But then you get in the point of saying, okay, oh, these things here I can apply there and there. Okay, so reframe is basically change the context of things and apply in a different space. Okay, so you take solutions, problems, and you twist the perspective from that. And that's like, when you have to do that with every single class of your course, then you learn that a lot. And these are like really the 3 main skills of how to use design knowledge. So that's how to become a design without crafting. If hacking is so cool, my question is, why not more people hack? Like, why we're not doing that like every day? I think the first problem is the question of power distance. So people always have this idea that the rules of university, or the rules in general, they were forged by gods in the, like, ancient times, and they cannot be touched, they cannot be questioned. And your professor can actually destroy your life, or can like course you for the rest of your eternity because he can, and you're afraid of that. And I have to say that like most of the professors that I encountered in my life, they were really keen on daring students when they try to produce something. The second one is laziness. And that's like, I think that's the hardest one to overcome, because it's so in yourself that most of the people like say, okay, look, if I can deliver that, like if I can work 5 hours to deliver an exam, why I would work 20 to deliver something else? Like I can only have this check out of my head and then it's gone. So laziness for me is like the hardest one, and I don't have a solution for that one. And the third one is ignorance. It's simply like people don't know that they can do stuff. Like they are not aware that we can simply like move on and think, okay, yeah, I would like to try that out. Is it possible? They don't know that. And that's hard. So that's why I'm bringing you like, say, yes, you can do that. So all in all, that was my trial of giving to you an idea of how can you reshape your education. Like a lot of people ask me how I see the change in educational system or the future of education, and they always trying to provoke like that I give a proper answer of like a specific system. And there's always this idea of a system replacing a system that replaces a system that, and so on. And I don't think there is a perfect system that's going to fit everyone in. I like the idea of a variation. You know, as much variations of educational possibilities, of environments, of learning environments you can give and you can experience is better for you. So instead of trying to look for like a perfect school for you, just start using your school as your perfect school. Let's try to make your school the perfect school that you can have. Thank you.